became a loud as a sound caressed the air, and I kicked it up a notch as I strolled without a care, cause I'm going down the road to a brand new place, and I'll get there with a smile on my face. Yeah, so lift me up, I'm moving on, singing and dancing while I play my song.
Well, we're live, guys. Let me just press my button here. Okay. Yeah. We're live. We're live. Woohoo. Woohoo. We're live. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're live to talk about our great podcast this week, and it's amazing. Amazing interview with an estate lawyer this week. So if you haven't heard it, go on over to our podcast on 8 different platforms to find out what it's all about. So everybody, for those that are new here, my name is Tina Ginn, and I am an emergency preparedness coach, a best-selling author, a financial expert, and an app developer of your backup plan. And I'm here in Vancouver, BC, and as you can see with Pacific Standard Time, it's just getting dark now. It's just turned 6, and we're in for kind of a cold weekend coming up. So you can expect some product reviews and workshops and tutorials, and we always have tips and tricks for you guys. Always. I always make sure of that. And we have interviews on our channel and with real life people and their real life stories. So if you are new here, go ahead and click on the subscribe button and tap on the bell, because I think it's over there somewhere, over there. And so you don't miss out on any of our videos when we upload new videos, and if we have lives and some live interviews, please do not miss out. I guarantee that you will love it. So one thing that you can count on is that we are all going to have some sort of circumstance, some sort of event in our life where it's going to be life-changing, whether it's good or it's bad. But there will be an eventual tragedy in our lives. I hate to tell you that because it does happen. And surprise, surprise, it does happen. And that's what we do here. We make sure, because it's such a heavy topic for everybody, that we don't want you guys to be alone. We want you to have a plan in place, to be prepared, because it's not about dying and it's not about getting sick. But in fact, it's about any sort of circumstance that will hit your life at some point in time. And we're here. That's why we're here. We're here. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm so passionate. And that's why I'm determined to make a difference, one heart at a time, because family does matter. So let's move on with our live broadcast. We interviewed Chris Meyer from Watson Goepel in Vancouver, BC, Canada, this past week, and it was amazing. I don't know about you guys, but I learned so much. And this week's quote of the week is, you know what they say, when there's a will, there's a family fighting over it. And that's comedian Matt Wohlfarth. I can't even say the name. Okay, so don't say it fast, because maybe I should. Say it really fast and nobody knows the difference. Anyway, we talked about wills with Chris. We talked about trusts and why you should have a will, why you should have a trust. And of course, the one little tiny document that we always seem to forget is a power of attorney for when we're actually living. And we need to know that we need to have that, guys. We really need to know that we have it. So please, watch or listen to the podcast. I will be putting it up on YouTube eventually. And it really is a special, it's just like you going to a lawyer for about an hour and you get so much information. I really, really think that you should listen to it because it will probably answer one or two of your questions that you have. Let's start from the beginning because my blog was super long this week, super long. It was like 16 or 1900 words, something. I could have written a short story on wills and trusts because, as you can tell, I'm just a little passionate about it. So what I wanted to do is talk about why people get stuck in not doing a will. And there's really two reasons why that I have found in my journey in life with talking to people, with my clients, and with their issues and with their problems that they've had. And it's always those two things. I can't think of any other reason. But if you do think of something, make sure you write down here in the comment section down below what you think, why you haven't done your will yet, guys. If you haven't, let me know. And we can hook you up to getting one because we're going to have a membership program with your backup plan, and it's going to help you and guide you through the system of getting a plan in place. It's going to start off with step 1 through 4, and then there'll be more educational topics to talk about in the videos that you can click on anytime you want. If you're flying in a plane, if you're sitting at home by the fireplace, or if you're sitting out on the beach on a lounge chair, you can watch the videos and get inspired and motivated to possibly think about getting this plan in place. And the plan in place is part of these 3 documents. Now, we talk about them in other podcasts and other videos. And so I'm just going to probably, you can probably tell me off the top of your head too what those 3 documents are. But we're going to start with people saying to me what reasons why they don't have a will. Any ideas? I have one. Tina, nothing's going to happen to me. So why do I need a will? I don't need one because nothing's going to happen. Well, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news for you, but there will be something that will happen to you, and you are going to need a will, unless, of course, you want to just give everything to the government. Do you want to do that? I know I don't. And the second reason why people have an issue with not getting their will done is because they don't know who to put as the guardian of their children. So what I always suggest is go ahead and write up the will and put whoever comes to your mind into your mind at the very first slight second. That's who you put in your will as the guardian of your kids. And then in the next 6 months, when you're doing your backup plan educational videos, you can then go back and think about that part again. And maybe you can make a few adjustments. Maybe you could think about having, 2 people on as a guardian. Maybe you would like to write a special note for the guardians that, you don't want to forget somebody, but you want to make sure that maybe you'd like your sister to pick up the kids and take them away for the weekend. those types of things that you can really put your heart and your soul into making these decisions, because it sometimes is overwhelming when you think that you have to, do this will and you don't know who to put as your guardian. And not having a will is worse than not having a will with the right guardian in place. Did I say that right? I'm going to have to listen to this video after and make sure I did. Because if you don't have a will and you have children, the government will step in and make those decisions for you, and also separate the estate process, the investments, the property, the cash accounts, the mutual funds, or RIFs, or pensions, and all of that stuff. That's all part of your estate. So what is an estate? What is your estate? Because I have other people that say, I don't need to do a will because I have nothing. I have nothing. So why do I need a will? Well, because you probably do have something. You probably have quite a bit that you don't technically put under an estate, but it is all part of your estate. Your vehicles, your business, your investments, your cash in the bank, your even if you're on another bank account with another person, that's still part. Digital assets, something that you might have on your certain accounts that you accumulate cash or rewards from. Those are all part of your estate. Art, hobbies, furniture, timeshares, although I'm not sure how easy those are to transfer over or change. I wanted to say change and transfer all in one word. I don't think that's an easy task to change your timeshare, but it is part of your estate. And we have all of these things now that we don't really think of as an estate, because, we think, well, I might not have any property, so I don't really have anything. It doesn't really matter. But then there's others that think that, they just need this big castle or a house or an apartment or a condo to be considered. That's the reason why I need a will. I always say it's good to have a will right when you turn 19, because you can always make adjustments to it. And you are going to get married at some point in time or live together, and then you can readjust that will. You might have a separation or a divorce, and you can change your will. All of these journeys along the way, when you have children, you can add them into your will. You can take your children out of your will if you so choose, as well as time progresses. I have heard many people say that. But in British Columbia, I'm not sure of, other areas in the United States or UK or Australia or Europe. For any listeners out there, I'm not really sure. You have to check about that, because if you want to remove any of your children out of your will, that will, in our area, cause an issue, because the person not in the will can then contest the will. And the chance of that going through is pretty high. It's a very good, not a very good stand to be on when you remove someone out of the will for whatever reason, it doesn't matter because they can still contest it and say, there's 3 kids and all 3 should be equal. And it's not that way in that particular will. So I have to take a drink. Sorry. I'm not even singing and I'm losing my voice. When we remove someone out of the will, that person can contest the will, and it just ties up the will forever and ever and ever and uses up all of the money. Whatever money was in there will be used up in legal fees. So Chris Meyer we had a long discussion about that part in the podcast. And there are certain reasons why you might want to remove someone out of your will, like one of your children. And that could be, there might be a drug addiction or an alcohol addiction, or you may think, well, they don't need it because they have their own. And whatever that looks like for you, whatever you're thinking, maybe you haven't talked to your kids in years and years and you don't think they deserve to be in the will. Well, it's of course your choice, but you have to look at the bigger picture. You have to look at, what if it goes to court? What if people do contest the will? What if, and then it just ties up all the 3 people that are siblings. It will cause usually a rift amongst them as well. So Chris had mentioned a few other trusts that you can create for your children. So in amongst the will, you can form a trust and put all 3 children in that trust and list how much you want to go to each one. If you want them all equal, perfect. If you want them separate and different, that's fine too. But anytime there's anything in a trust, people cannot contest it, but people can contest a will because it forms part of your estate, and a trust technically doesn't. Because in British Columbia, so you should also check in your region for anyone that is looking at getting a will done, but leaving one person out of the will because they might be on a disability pension, and you don't want, or you have put them in the will and they're on a disability pension or receiving benefits from the government of some sort. That's when it would hurt them, because in your estate and in the will, if you haven't put any other cautionary measures in place, that would create an issue with the government, usually. So you have to check in your own area. But it usually causes an issue because in Canada, in British Columbia, there's an issue with having an estate coming to you as an inheritance, and you are receiving money or programs or benefits or something from the government on a disability or a pension of some sort of disability, that they will look actually at your assets. And if you receive a whole big inheritance, whether it's property or money, you will be taken off. That person will be removed off that benefit program. So it's really good to know that you should look at a trust, and you can only do that through getting a lawyer in place and writing up the proper documentation. So we did talk about estates. We did talk about, why should I get a will? There's probably like 60 or 70% of families out there that don't have a will. Can you believe that? That is truly amazing to me, because I guess we're all going to live forever, according to 60 or 70% of the people out there. But, that doesn't happen. So that's why I'm here to help you and hold your hand and guide you through that process of putting your plan together. And this is only one little tiny, tiny little bit of your plan. So, but it's a good start. And after doing the 4 steps in our membership course, you can then take the other videos and do the will video and do the power of attorney video and so on and so forth. Whatever tickles your fancy that day, you can work on it and listen and get better educated. I was talking to a lady just the other day, and she did remove one of her children from her will. And I did mention to her that it's too easy to contest it. And does she want that? You always have to remember, what is it that you want? Remember, we talked about this in the funeral planning and the pre-planning. And because that's also a part of your plan, is to think about, what is it do I want? Do I want my kids to be fighting? Maybe you have a dysfunctional family already. Who doesn't these days? Maybe you have a blended family. And then we also need to make sure that I feel it's super, super important to create a trust within a will for the blended family as well, so that nobody's going to fight over who gets what, and nobody's going to be left out, because that also does happen, for many people when the family becomes blended. Because if you are husband and wife or 2 partners and one of them passes away, then that whole estate will then flow through to the other person. And you already have a family from before, so they miss out on everything from the new family that possibly doesn't have anything to do with the family, really, because it's maybe his side or your partner's side, and that's their children. But this estate, this property that I brought into the marriage or relationship, it includes your property. It includes all of your investments. And do you want it to all just get put over to that other side of the fence? Do you want anything to go to your kids? Do you want anything to go to your side? So that part's super, super important. And that's something to think about and something to consider, not to leave people out because we don't want to fight. I always said, I've said this to so many families, that, when we're already fighting in our day-to-day world, not talking to each other or not getting along with each other, maybe 2 brothers or 2 sisters or whatever, why continue? Why continue that argument? Why continue that fight? And I realize that there's a fine line of they don't deserve it or anything like that. But we need to consider, in the perfect world, what would that look like? And how can I fix the situation from going further into a bigger mess? When it's already crippling underneath your feet, you don't need to add more to it. So those are kind of some tips and tricks that I think Chris had mentioned also, speaking to him, because he sees so many family fights. And in January, we are booked for Watson Goepel again to do a live podcast and video. And we're going to be talking to some of his partners on some stories that they might be able to share with us on some arguments and fights and contests. I'm not sure what the verb is for that one. But when we contest a will, that's what they're going to give us, that juicy drama stuff, I guess you could say. The real stories, the good stuff, like in a movie. So not that we want it to happen to ourselves, because we don't, or to those that we love. But I think there's a part of us, like in a movie, where we kind of like to hear the the stuff that really goes on, because we really are out of the picture. We don't know. We haven't heard. We don't know what that looks like. So it's kind of fun, to hear those stories. And we're booked for January for that. So I'm really excited. So what else did we talk about? Well, we discussed that in your plan, the purpose of making sure that you have your estate plan, I guess, so to speak, whether you have a lot or don't have a lot, it doesn't really matter, because anything, family fight over a watch or a cup or a saucer. So it doesn't matter. We need to make sure that we are creating a plan for us that is going to make sense. And as we get older, the real object of getting an estate plan together is that you can preserve the maximum amount of wealth that is in your estate to your beneficiaries. And the beneficiaries are those that you have chosen that are going to inherit your estate. So let's say you had $1 million estate and you have 3 children and it gets divided 3 ways. That's probably the most simplest version story to tell. So in that, of course, nobody would fight because it's all equal. But there's also a little bit of customization, because as we get older, we need to make sure that flexibility we have prior, that we might need it. We might need some of that money for long-term care needs, or nursing, or medical equipment, or anything like that. So we should make sure that we have the will concise. And we did talk about doing your own will. I put in the blog, I'm not sure which way to point, down below in the description for our blog, which talks about doing your own will as well, picking it up from one of the office supply stores, or I think I've seen them in the grocery stores. I'm not sure anymore. I'm not sure if they're still in there. But there are, I think, about 3 or 4 different types of will kits that you can put together. And the problem with the will kit is that I have understood that there could be a lot of fighting over it, because you think it's a simple put together, sign it, done. But maybe it's not 100%. Maybe there's something missing. Maybe you haven't discussed something. Maybe you have eliminated one of the children out of the will and you wrote the will kit anyways. That's where the real problems are going to come out. That's where Chris told us the real goods of, maybe you think it could be really cheap by doing it that way. But in our membership course program, we will have a questionnaire, a kit for your will that you can go over at your leisure, sit by the fireplace on the couch and discuss it with your best loved one of what you think you'd like to have for an answer for those questions. And that way, when you make the lawyer or notary appointment, you can then proceed to have all your answers already done. And it saves so much more money by saving time with your lawyer or notary. So we did talk about a notary, and they are unable to do a few of the different things in a will. So you must have, because we're talking to people from all over, you'll have to check in your own area if a will or a notary is the best bet for you. And don't automatically just take the cheapest one. You don't just phone the law firms and phone around and ask how much it costs. That might be a good start, but to me, the better start is to actually ask for an interview. a 30-minute free interview with a lawyer or a notary that can guide you and you can build a relationship with and feel comfortable in going through all of your questions and all of your ideas. And you're really going to be giving a lot of your own life out. So you have to make sure that it's with someone that you like and trust, because maybe the guy down the street was $100 cheaper to do a will, but you didn't like him. So what is the point in that? So I always say, do your 3 interviews from the ones that you've picked and talk to them, find out which ones you like the best, bring your questionnaire with you from your backup plan. That's basically all completed. And then you can move further with completing the will. Not that it's all done, because there might be some trust that you want to build into a will. There might be some, some questions that you might want to ask about certain circumstances, a blended family, or anything like that, an older adult child that you need to still look after. So there are different things in your own story, in your own life, in your own family dynamics that you need to readjust things. And so Will Kit is not for everybody. I don't want you to think that it's everything, because it's not, but it is better than nothing. When you have a will kit done and you've written it out and you've gotten 2 witnesses and it's notarized and it's registered, that is better than not having any will at all. But the problem with that is that due to your own family circumstances, it might not be your best choice, because there might be more complications. There might be more issues around your family that you need to dissect instead of just, well, that doesn't matter. So I hope that helps everybody in understanding the difference of doing your own will versus having your will done by a professional. I do have a quick story, and the story is that I had a client who had a brother-in-law who had a heart attack and passed away in his apartment. And doing so, he had written his own will, and they looked high and low. The family came in, 2 brothers, 1 sister came into the place, and he wasn't married. And they thought they could find this will, and they did. I think they found it in the bottom of a drawer next to his bed. You know, everybody has these weird places for storing things, but that's my other topic. That's later. We're going to talk about that part too. But in the story, he wanted to leave everything to his 2 nephews, who always was around. They helped him out. He helped them out. And they had a great relationship. And he wanted to leave everything that he had to his nephews. And so he had written this will, and it wasn't registered with the province or country or wherever you're from. And it was in his bedroom drawer. And the family did find it, the 2 brothers and the sister, and they ripped it up. Can you believe that? How can anybody consciously do that, knowing that's not what he wanted? I'm not sure how, but they did. And is that a crime? You know, does anybody else know that he had one? Does anybody else know that they weren't on it? But automatically in Canada, in British Columbia, the next of kin get his estate, which is his 2 brothers and sister. So, you know, I'm sure he must be turning around in his grave a few times a day, because that's not what he wanted, obviously. But who's to say, if he had have done a will with a lawyer and it was registered, then there wouldn't have been that issue. And so I'm here to tell everybody to think about it again. Think about if you need to update your will, if it's been too long, if you've been through a separation, if you've been through a divorce, if you have had now children, if you adopted children, if, I don't know, there's so many scenarios, but get a will. I wish I could make a song up. Maybe I should. Get a will. Except I can't sing, so you don't want me doing that. The next document that we talked about was number 2, and that's your power of attorney. And the power of attorney is for when you're living. And it's super important, and a lot of people forget it and don't do it because they think it's not important or whatever. I'm not sure. But a power of attorney is for when you're living, and it really will help because of this thing called Alzheimer's and dementia. As soon as you're incapable mentally, you cannot do a power of attorney any longer. You can't even do a will. So for everybody out there that have parents, make sure you have that family meeting. Make sure you ask, what do they want? What do they want for their picture to look like? Do they have a will? Is it up to date? Do they have a power of attorney? And usually with mother and dads or parents, they'll have each other as their power of attorney. And that's really great, but it's also good to have a contingent in case something happens as they get older to the other person as well. So the power of attorney, you can do it on your by yourself with a power of attorney kit. I did see one at the office supply store the other day, and it's in my blog if anybody wants to check it out down below. There's a picture of it, and the price, I think, is there as well. But most lawyers and notaries will give you a package for doing a will and doing a power of attorney at the same time. And now they've also included the third document, which is we call it a representation agreement in British Columbia, Canada, but in other areas, it's more likely it's known, or in the movies, it's known as a living will. And this is where you're incapable of medically of answering any of those questions. Do I want to stay on life support? How long do I get surgery after a certain point? Or all of these questions that, you would make for your pet. You would say that about your dog or your cat. And I have a girlfriend who would say that about her parrot. So we need to ensure that our health care can be regulated, and it's really important as well when you are put into a home where you're looked after, and that gives them the guidance and the answers to what it was that you really truly wanted before you were incapable of answering any of those questions properly. So those 3 documents are the really important ones. And of course, that's the will. Number 2 is the power of attorney. And I didn't mention the power of attorney is when you're living, but you're incapable of doing your own business, so to speak, going to the bank, paying bills, going into accounts, changing investments, paying a contractor, or doing renovations on your house, or anything like that is normal day-to-day business duties. That's when a power of attorney would kick in. And it's always good to have 1 or 2 people, one as a contingent as well, just in case, when the parents are getting older, that you would have that. And then the third document that we just talked about was the living will or the representation agreement, or they also call it a healthcare initiative. I've heard many different names for it, but I am going to check possibly in England, Australia, all the Commonwealth countries. Perhaps even I'll go to the extent of Europe to find out what all the other places call it. And I will post that on my website or do a live video on it as well. So that would be kind of cool to hear about all the different names. But I'm sure that in your area, you will have something similar to that. And it's very good to have. And it's a headache if you don't have it. Say you're dealing caretaking, we just talked about in our last week's broadcast. And for people who don't have that living will completed with a parent, it's quite a bit of work to be chosen as the representative. Like, you have to apply to be able to do that job. So don't go down that route unless you have to. It's not an easy path, and it might come into issues if you're fighting amongst family members as well. Instead of doing it ahead of time, having the person that they wanted in there, perhaps it was you instead of your brother or sister or aunt, for that matter. So it's always good, especially in blended families, because you might have chosen, one partner might choose one family side, and the other partner might choose the other family side. So it's good to consider all of those things. And of course, blended families are such a big thing right now. So we did talk about will kits. We did talk about trusts, and we did talk about how to save money with getting a will. And I mentioned that you could do a kit for the time being, but I would hope that you wouldn't keep that forever. It's better than not having any at all. But like I said, there's so many things that could go wrong with that process that you would probably be scared about hearing about those things. So we don't want to go down that path, but we do want to say it's better than not having anything. But make those interviews with 3 or 4 different lawyers or notaries of your choice. Get some pricing. Find out which one that you can build a relationship with, and really discuss your issues. Download the worksheet that we have for the will, and complete it ahead of time. That will save you a lot of money as well, because you'll already have most of the answers already done for you. And not having a will is probably the most expensive way out of this whole world, because you didn't plan. And there's going to be so many costs and issues around that. So that's definitely not the ideal situation. So we talked about why you need a power of attorney, because you can sign documents, legal documents, you can do banking, unpaid bills, all of those kinds of things. And I think we're coming to the end now, finally. I just want to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. No, but, I think by January, well, by next month we'll have our membership course up, and you'll be able to guide yourself through that process, watch a video here and there, and really start your plan for yourself. And we're going to have, in the membership program, we will have people that you can ask for your own situation. Maybe you have a quick question when you're doing it. I think that's really handy too, so that you can get the best advice and move forward with getting your plan in place. And remember, these are 3 documents for when something happens to you, but don't forget those people around you as well. Your partner, your sister, your best friend, your neighbor, anybody that you feel that you would have to help during, say, a funeral, or if they got sick. Who would those people that would be close to you, to make sure they have a will done and a power of attorney and a living will too. And share this video if it makes any sense to you at all, to share it amongst your friends and family, because they need to know why they have to have one. And you don't want to be spending your time out of your day trying to figure out their crap. And I call it crap because I could say other words, but I won't. Because it's a mess, trying to find their will. Did they have one? Did they have funeral arrangements? Where is the mortgage at? Where's their bank accounts at? Or even as small as, how do you get into their house? As small as that. So we talk about vehicles, we talk about toys as well. Maybe you have ATVs or boats. Maybe you have a small business. These are all things that add to your estate and add more complications for those that you love. So if you have a brother out there or a sister, and you haven't talked to them about whether they have a will and an executor and a guardian or any of that stuff, please do, because you will be thanking yourself later. They will be thanking you for getting this plan in place. And so, guys, I'm going to end it there, because I'm sure your head is probably, oh God, what did Tina just say? Get a well. That's what I said. Get a will. But I hope I've inspired you and motivated you. And please don't forget to listen to the podcast with Chris, because it's very, very educational. I'm sure that you will love and find some tips for yourself in there. Take a moment and share this video with those that you love and have, because it will make a huge impact on you and them in any sort of situation. There are good situations, but they always seem to come with the bad situations too. So we want to have a plan in place, and we want to be able to look at your own situation and help you plan it. And that's our motto, I guess. I guess I could call it that, because we want to make sure that you're prepared. Our website is yourbackupPlan.ca for anybody that hasn't gone there. We have an app on Google Play and iTunes that you can download at any time. And that's where our membership program is going to give you videos that you can look through, get educated, ask questions. And it might even be a question that's not pertaining to you, but maybe to someone that you're an executor for, or you have an issue of a family member that hasn't gone right, or you don't know what to do. Our weekly podcast is on Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we are on 8 platforms now. iTunes and Spotify are the 2 common ones. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And guys, remember, I'm here to help you. I'm here to guide you through the process of getting better prepared. Even when you think you are, you're not. So take it from me. I have probably done thousands and thousands of customized planning. And when you think you're planned properly, you haven't, because maybe you stuck everything into your computer and no one can get into your computer. So, let's let's get a plan in place. Let's know where it is. Let's not have your family and friends worried about trying to find it when it comes time. So if I can wish everyone lots of love and stay safe during this COVID time, everyone wear a mask, wash your hands, of course. And I love every one of you. And I love for you to share, like, and subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to build up my YouTube channel every week with more and more videos. So if you haven't gone over to the YouTube channel, please do so and subscribe. I would love you for it. And thanks so much for coming out tonight, talking about such an important topic of wills, power of attorneys, and living wills. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming. And thanks for listening to our podcast and our video this week. Next week is on breast cancer because of October. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'll wish everyone lots of love till next week. I'll see you then. Bye for now. Bye.